Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to yet another edition of International Forum. I am Wilson Marshall. Sincere apologies for starting slightly behind schedule. Well, it's all about what transpired on Sunday in Israel Parliament, where Benjamin Netanyahu lost the position, that seat of the Prime Minister, by a razor-thin margin, 1 vote. What could be as painful as that? 1 vote. But he made a statement: we will be back. Anyway, my analysis really want to really throw more light on what transpired that led to Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel for 12 years and counting, the longest serving Prime Minister. And he was defeated through the parliament, through the coalition of strong parties. They came together. Because of the absence of one person, it saw the end of Benjamin's reign. Before that, let's go around the world, bringing out some stories making the rounds. Let's move straight down to Minneapolis. Yes, at St. Paul, where the Black Lives Matter protests was still like raging on. But this time around, it's like clouded by very, very sad news. A woman who died after a car crash during protests in Minneapolis, Minnesota, been identified as a mother of 2. Because she just had to, like, according to her, she wants to support the movement of Black Lives Matter. For that reason, she went and she blocked the street, so that the protesters can have enough space. But somewhere along the line, another car lost control and rammed into her car. Kajal is her name. She was aged 31. She couldn't survive. She didn't survive it. That led also to another round of protests. Before she died, she made a live video via Facebook saying, all life matters. We really have to stop this. We have to stop all this. That way she was like, trying to block the street for the protesters to have easy access to St. Paul, various outlets. But when protests is like going on, anything can just happen. Maybe the other car, the truck lost control. And that was how the cookie crumbled for this vibrant young woman, 31, mother of 2. It's quite sad, very sad. Anyway, let's see if the final judgment of Collins will really make these people calm down. He's been found guilty of murder, but he has the right to appeal, and he has appealed. Let's see what will be the next line of action. All right. Moving on from there, let's move straight down to what is happening to Aung San Suu Kyi. You remember Burma, Myanmar, where there was a collaboration between the military and the civilian to form a government. But somewhere along the line, the military said the election conducted was flawed with irregularities. For that reason, they usurped the position of the civilian in parliament. They took over. The world cried and cried and cried, still to no avail. The military in Burma, they stood firm. And this is why you're seeing Aung San Suu Kyi and some of his members of parliament or cabinet, they were arrested. Yeah, they were arrested, and right now she's being tried. And this is like the trial of a bright light, so to speak. In my mind, we're talking about political antecedents. The military want to say they don't want to take the law into their hands. They have to call her up to ask a couple of questions to see if she's really culpable. What if she's culpable? What do you think they would do? Don't forget that U.S. cried against the coup in Myanmar. UN cried against the coup in Myanmar. Many persons, many presidents, many countries, they cried against the coup. But the military haven't killed some citizens of Myanmar. Talking about Burma, their citizens, they came out to protest. They didn't budge. They said they want sanity in Myanmar, and only the military that have the power, that has the guts to make sure that there's sanity when we talk about politics. What do you feel about that? Do you think this trial of Aung San Suu Kyi is going to be a fair trial? That is what the world is really watching and waiting to see the outcome of the trial. Despite the hues and cry of persons losing their lives in protest against what the military did in Myanmar, they are still there, hand-bent to ensure sanity according to them. Let's move down to what is happening to Italian soldiers that had this altercation with a fisherman in a river. It has to do with Italy and, of course, India. According to reports, 2 men were shot. Yeah, and the case is ongoing. Yeah, India Supreme Court closes criminal cases against Italian Marines accused of killing 2 Indian fishermen in February 2012. You see, justice can just grind slow, but eventually they will get to the bottom of it. For what this record said, talking about the bench, they dismissed the case because there is no palpable, strong evidence against these Italian Marines that really carried out the act. The circumstances that led to the fishermen being shot wasn't enough to really hold on to these 2 Italian soldiers or Marines that carried out the act. It was a case of my word against your word, no palpable proof, no palpable evidence to find them guilty. Hence, what can the Supreme Court do? And this may also bolster a relationship between India and Italy. Anyway, if you're out there doing your job, just do your job well. Especially when it comes about international relations, international politics, you can never tell. Maybe, just maybe, the country's interest or the country's relationship with the other country may just supersede every other forms of reasoning if there are no evidence backing the claim. And that's it on this segment. We'll go on a break. When we return, we'll take a look at the huge loss suffered by Benjamin Netanyahu. Razor-thin margin. What a blow. What next for Benjamin? We'll be right back after this break. And with me here in the studio, I have a legal practitioner, a human rights activist. Join me to welcome Barrister Osahon Osazua. Barrister, welcome to International Forum. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
I say very close to him. He is a political analyst, public affairs commentator, human rights activist. When we talk about academia, he's deep into it. Yes, College of Medical Sciences. I got it this time right. He's a lecturer there. But when we start analyzing international and local issues, you just be in great awe in his depth, or with his depth of knowledge. Join me to welcome Honorable Frank Amego. Welcome to International Forum.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to underline one phrase: razor-thin margin. Yeah, that was what was used to describe the loss of Benjamin Netanyahu to Bennett and, of course, to Yari, kind of a coalition, so to speak. One person was so undecided on what he wanted, and that led to the fatal blow of the longest-serving Prime Minister of Israel in the person of Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's take a look at the build-up to this particular moment of where Benjamin Netanyahu ceases to be the Prime Minister of Israel. Let me start off from you, Barrister Osahon Osazwa. What do you feel about all this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Wincy. Before the decisive vote on Sunday, Benjamin Netanyahu knew his days as Prime Minister was numbered. That somehow the people, they have become disenchanted about his divide and rule tactics, about his scorched-earth policies and politics, about his immoral, so to speak, immoral and dangerous politicking, and he knew that his days were drawing to an end. But like the fighter that he is, he went down fighting. Even while going down, he told us, all of us who care to listen, that he will be back. And I would like to believe him that he will be back. Pending the legal challenges that he has in court. Save for that, if not for that, even in spite of that, I think we'll have a Benjamin Netanyahu once again as the Prime Minister of Israel. But having said that, Let me quickly say this, that Benjamin Netanyahu is a patriot. He's a Zionist in the most absolute sense of the word, Zionist. He is one that really loves his country and realizes that Israel cannot be governed with, you need a lion's heart. You need to be decisive. You need, if need be, to be ruthless. And he has been all these and even more. So much so that even the person, his former chief of staff that succeeded in army, is also a far-right person, because they realize that whoever is the prime minister of Israel doesn't really matter. That when it comes to the issue of the indivisibility of Jerusalem, they stand shoulder by shoulder. When it comes to the issue of not giving lands to the Arabs, they stand shoulder by shoulder. That is why the Palestinian Authority said that it's just what happened is a family feud. Two brothers fighting. Yeah. They are still brothers. Yeah. No matter the differences they have, they are still brothers who have a shared set of goals. And those goals are never brought to the table to be negotiated. Right. It is Israel first and Israel last. As Naphtali Bennett and Netanyahu is concerned. And even the next person that will come, Lepid, they are all the same.
I will come back to you, Barrister Osanhosa, as well. Honorable Frank Amego, you heard him, said like a family feud. But one thing is sure, the interest of Israel is still very much on the table. What do you think led to the defeat of Benjamin Netanyahu? Though he took it as a man, but you could see the pains in his eyes.
Yeah, quite unfortunate. In a contest, there must be a winner. However slim the margin was. That Benjamin did not win was not surprising to me, because he has had a series of allegations leveled against him, like bribery, fraud, up to breach of trust. And there's no leadership in power that can come back in the face of all of these allegations, to the point that his own mentee, the outgoing was his mentor. Yeah. So the mentee now, the person of Naphtali Bennett, had to come on board. And I want to agree with my colleague here that nothing has even gone wrong in the first instance. They have the same goals to achieve. But just need to address some personal issues. Because if you are helping out in a matter, you should avoid as much as possible and as you can any gratification. You are not helping out because you are selfless in that service. The outgoing prime minister, I haven't done about 12 years, and the longest serving prime minister in the history of Israel, shouldn't have just been put aside like that, because they should have honored him to some extent. But the slim margin of 60 to 59, was a case of abstention. One person neither voted for nor against anybody. So even if that person voted, that vote would have gone to Benedict or Netanyahu, as the case may be. But as it has happened now, Netanyahu should accept it like that. And the other challenge that I know he will likely have is those cases in court, if he will go scot-free. Right. But now they're going to press a lot of charges. The Attorney General of Israel at the time presented that matter. And that matter is so heavy for Netanyahu to escape from. Bribery, they have all the evidences. Fraud and breach of trust. So these were things that paved way for Naphtali Bennett to come on board. And the way it is now, it will need the favor of the people of Israel to let go those allegations. But if they continue with those allegations, it might go to jail.
Okay, now, can one deduce that is because of the allegations levied against Netanyahu, that was what saw him be removed as a prime minister?
If you look at the facts, one would not readily say that. Just like Donald Trump, Netanyahu seems to be covered in the, what do they call this metal, Teflon or something. It keeps taking it after it. When you think he's going down, despite all the controversies, and despite all the allegations and even all the very strong evidences against him, he keeps drawing followers because of his right-wing populism. That's the way politics work. Yeah. And it's shocking that ever since allegations cropped up, he has won 2 general elections. 2 general elections, even after these allegations. And just that his majority has been thinning out. And since March last year, when he, even as we talk, his party, like he still has the most members of parliament. Just like he couldn't get partners, he couldn't get coalition partners to form a government. And that's just that. So that shows that he still have followers who believe in his brand of politics, who believe in the survival of the Jewish nation as foremost before any other person. And no matter how corrupt you are, all the bribes you take, everything you do, they don't really care. As long as you say Iran should not have a nuclear bomb that over your dead body, that's what they want to hear. They don't care if you steal your PIFA there or you embezzle there. They just tell them Iran will never be a nuclear power. Tell them Jerusalem will never be divided. Tell them there will never be a Palestinian state. You get votes, just like also happened in the US. So that's for that. So I think that's why I say, even in spite of these court cases that he has, I see Bibi coming back.
You say coming back?
Yes, I do. And again, most especially because of the nature of this coalition. It is very strange. When you say strange bedfellows, that's not the strangest. People coming, look at the spectrum of the alliance, from the far right to the far left. They even have an Arab party there. For the first time in Israeli politics, we have the United Arab League, or what they call Raham in Hebrew, being a member of parliament. And it has been so that since the formation of the Jewish state, despite the Arab forming over 20% of the population, they have never had any kind of representation in Israeli politics. Yes, until now. Because what they were all united in that single drive to drive away Netanyahu. Let him go first. Right. We might fight amongst ourselves later, which they will do. But let this man go first. Right, I think that was what really happened.
Was the election all about removing Netanyahu?
Exactly.
Was it the target? No matter the way you choose to do it, just let this man go?
Absolutely. Because they got fed up. It doesn't matter now how things will go. All what they wanted was for Netanyahu to leave the stage. Whatever crisis that will brew up later, they don't care. It's just like you have an enemy, and that enemy has an enemy. You're not going to draw your own calculations here and there. So they came to a round table, as you still posited earlier on, that in the midst of all these allegations, he still won twice like that. But as he won the first time, during the allegations, that people now walk up to the point that if we don't have a formidable coalition, we may be able to win in the second time. And the second time, he won again. So this last time now, they made up their minds that, don't worry, whatever things will take to remove Netanyahu from office, all of us will go all out to do it. And that's what has played out. So their interest now, apart from still having Israel as a nation in mind, they don't go short of that. And they just wanted to remove Netanyahu, and that they have done. So what happens now is not left for us to see as events will unfold. The game plan ab initio was the removal of Netanyahu, that no matter what will take them, as is also mentioned now, a lot of his followers started winning just to have him out of office. So the moment you have your followers number reducing over time, that will give you a clear signal. I would have expected Netanyahu to have known it. But because of the kind of person he is, he felt that nothing will be happening at that point. But it has played out now, and he has lost out. So those court cases are likely going to be brought up to prove their point that Netanyahu would have long been removed from that office. So if they go ahead prosecuting him along that line, that will kind of assent to the fact that he was not good enough to have been prime minister this long 12 years.
12 good years. gave way due to what they describe as a razor-thin margin. Now, you talked about fellows, strange bedfellows, the extreme right, the extreme left, even the Arab League in parliament, so to speak, coming together to push Netanyahu from power. Well, Bernard said something. He said, look, this is not the time to rejoice in the loss of another. Do you see Netanyahu still holding that respect in the house? Because there have no need to rejoice. It has happened, it has happened. Let's focus on what we ought to do. What do you think is that message? What do you think the message is all about? Before you talk about that, just hold on. We want to go for a break. When we return, we'll continue with the discussion. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Those are headlines making the rounds in our news, and of course things that you really need to know pertaining our country. Well, if you just joined us, this is International Forum. We're taking a look at Israel parliamentary election. Yeah, what next for Benjamin Netanyahu? Razor-thin margin. What a way to qualify the loss of Benjamin Netanyahu. So talking about the reaction of Bennett, nobody should celebrate, nobody should dance on the woes of others. Let's just focus on amending so many things dismantled by the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu. Do they still have that huge respect for the man Benjamin?
Yes, they do. They do. Before I go there, what was Netanyahu's crime? Even his own person, his own people, not saying you go. It's not because they didn't like the way he was governing, or they didn't like the way he put Israel first. No, it was because of certain things he was doing. It was because Netanyahu wanted to cling to power at all costs. His frame of reference and his scale of preference was just built on holding to power. He didn't care the collateral cost. He didn't care what gives. So much so that the institutions of governance in Israel were being strained. Look at what was happening. There was a strain between judiciary and the executive. Because he was mounting pressure on the system, dragging it to the brink until to see how far it can hold. Because he wanted to cling to power. And they saw that for the good of the nation, for the good of everybody, let this man go. Let this one go so that all of us can survive. Because the system may not be able to bounce back after those damages have been done. And that is why they now came together, say go. And if you listen to the speech that Bennett gave on that day before, because he saw it coming, even the person that did that of voting was ordinarily supposed to vote for the opposition, to vote for Bennett. Before that day, it was done. They all knew that the next government was going to be a government not of Netanyahu. So that even his speech he gave before that day, he was trying to massage the mass ego that you have really tried. But they didn't allow him to talk. The Netanyahu people were just shouting, they were just echoing him. They were drowning out his voices. He started by saying that he recognizes what Netanyahu has done, what great a patriot he is, and just trying to make the guy feel good. But they didn't listen to him until they have to just stop the proceeding and just fast forward everything to just cut the ceremony up. And when he now came for him to make his validatory speech, for him to say, it was about like 14, 15 minutes, but it took almost an hour. Because he was not talking, ventilating his grievances, so to speak, that he was just talking, I'll be back, that this government is dangerous, that this government is not good for the Jewish nation, that he has been forced out, but he's coming back. Those were not called for. And he has almost left before he now turned back to Sheikh and Bennett to show how much more in love he is with power. So Netanyahu is one.
In love is he with power with the state of Israel?
Yeah, listen, let me tell you something. Someone said that it's a patriotic. How did he put it? There's a good word I like that. That the patriots, let me just paraphrase now. Yeah. That the patriots now, they're the most vicious people. Because they think you show your patriotism by being vicious. That's the virtue. That patriotism is the virtue of the vicious. That's the word. That patriotism is the virtue of the vicious. The wicked people. You want to show I love my nation, and they think that Netanyahu thinks that he is the only person that can guarantee the continued existence of the Jewish nation. And it's a bad way to think. When you think that only you has the answer, that if you are not there, there will be problem.
All right.
That if you are not there, no other person can take charge. And he genuinely believes so.
All right. All right, I'll come back to you. Now, it's been deduced from what both of you are saying that the target was Benjamin Netanyahu. Though he gave comments, he gave speech, you can feel the displeasure in his voice, in his rhetorics and all that. And he was saying that he will be back. He says about the coalition, that the coalition is not good for the state of Israel. Do you think he's making a point in his assertion?
I saw him when he was making that speech like a drowning man. And he has outlived his stay as a prime minister and is not qualified in any way to have made such a statement or assertion. Because if in there to have won, he would have won. People got tired of him. I will make reference to my colleague here that is like a power-drunken person. That if he's without him, nothing goes. And it's a very dangerous way to lead a set of people. Without Netanyahu, Israel has been existing. And of course, now is not out of power, Israel will still exist.
But still, if you take a look at Netanyahu's antecedents, even during COVID-19, Israel economy wasn't affected. It was doing well.
Yes.
It was in its time also able to garner more lands, even despite the hues and cry of the UN, the US or any nation that's like, you know, talking about it. Israel is still expanding under his watch.
Everything cannot start and end with him. That's his mindset. If he's the only one that can hold Israel and move it to whatever level he wants. So the way the Israelites have seen things is they've done that differently from his own perception, to the point that he doesn't consider the next person as important. And that's bad for leadership. Yeah. And along that line also, you have done several years. He's the longest serving prime minister in the history of Israel. You have done all you wanted to do. So now you have been accused of so many things. All these accusations leveled against him are never leveled against a former prime minister. As the longest serving, and now he has the most terrible allegations leveled against him. So that should have told him, or taught him the same way, that he should step aside. As they just declared the results, 60-59, not in his favor. Just give your parliamentary speech and leave. Don't say you are coming back. Coming back to do what? What have you done that somebody else cannot do? At the time you were prime minister, you did well. Nobody can take that from you. But allow the stage to be set for the next set of persons to come on board. So for you to say openly that this set of people will misguide Israel, he is not a prophet to that extent to make such a positional statement. So what should have done is so quickly would have congratulated the new prime minister, Naftali Bennett, and every thing would have to have said should have been said off record, not to cast aspersion on the new prime minister that they may be able to lead well. He is not qualified to make such a statement. It's not like a blind man looking at the galaxies and says he cannot see anything. That would be right. But if he says there's nothing there, that's wrong. People that have contested,
see anything, there is nothing there. There are two different things.
Yes, if he says nothing, he cannot see any of the stars in the galaxy. That is right, because he's a blind man. But to go ahead to say there's nothing there, that's what he has just done. There's nothing good in a new set of people that will come on board now. Who is it to make such an assertion? So I allowed them to come on board. People voted for Naftali Bennett against him. So those ones that voted for him had in mind what they voted for. So should allow those things to come to play. And in no distant time, the things he felt could not be done by any other person. It will be done and they will surpass it. That's where human leadership is.
All right. They will surpass it.
Yeah.
Now, as we speak right now, he's the leader of the opposition in the party after the election that saw him exit the seat as a prime minister. Do you see him being the passive or better still active, antagonistic opposition in parliament?
Thank you very much, Wincy. The man himself has told everyone that cared to listen that, look, my job as the opposition leader is to frustrate this government.
But he never said that.
He did so. He said so.
Said
yes, so he said so. that is going to that he won't rest until he topples the government. That's what he said. That he is going to do all he can. That it was even said his government. He was talking about electoral fraud. Yes,
that's so.
Yeah, he talked about that too.
There was a coup against him and all those stuff. He was talking like a typical African, with respect to an African leader. That this is a coup, that this is going to topple these people, that they are not good, they cannot lead. I think when people have such mindset, when people think that way, there's a problem. You cannot, goodness cannot start and end with you. And evil cannot start and end with your neighbor. There is some good in the best of men and some evil in the best of men too. That's how it is. You are not an embodiment and a conglomeration and a codiment of everything that is good and holy and nice. And the other people are just there. They are just forces of evil. The light shines and revolves only around you. The guy has something and he's offering something. And the guy is also a multi-millionaire, not a billionaire. This Bennett, he knows exactly what he's doing. At 49 years, achieved so much. What did he achieve? Even we keep saying for 12 years. This man he has been there for over 15 years. Between 1996 and 1999, he was prime minister. Yeah. Before he came back in 2019, last weekend when they removed him. And he wants to die there. He wants the office. He thinks the office of the prime ministership of Israel was made for him. And him alone. And he's not even comfortable seeing anybody assuming that position. He thinks the person is going to goof here, goof there, and allow evil things to happen to Israel. Even when we all know this is a person who has enriched himself using that office, taking gifts and taking bribes left, right, and center. And instead of being ashamed, he's not even ashamed. He thinks what he has done. He genuinely thinks and believes that what he has done.
He said those allegations leveled against him are baseless.
Let me tell you the truth.
That's what he said. He said they are baseless.
Do you know that? And
mind you, in the court of law, a professional until he's found guilty, is innocent.
Yes, we all know that. Do you know that when those allegations were leveled against him, when it was done by his own party man, his own attorney general then. Yeah. They said, look, this fast, that's why you are my man. What I have before you, they are so glaring, and the facts are so strong that I cannot wish them, I cannot friend them away and say because we belong to the same flock. That's how the guy came, and after fighting the AG, now went to the Chief Justice, the Esther something, also fighting everybody that just fighting anybody who is not towing his line. So we know that this is a man who has instigated many crises, even that last crisis with Gaza. People are saying he has a hand in it because he wanted to retain power.
No, but we don't approve of that.
We don't. To show that he has the law for Israel, let him fight. So that maybe after fighting, he says, this is another warrior again. This warrior is good for us. Let him continue fighting. He's a warrior. He doesn't even like the Palestinians. He doesn't like the Arab. Emotional sentiments and all that. And that has kept him in office for all these years. He knows how to play to the gallery. He knows what the average Jews want to hear. To prey on their fear of we are surrounded by hostile neighbors and we need to be on our watch 24 hours of the day and all that. He keeps telling them that as though the people around them are just demons wanting to swallow him and he's the only person that can defend them. So we now thank God for once we have even this one that came now. It's not my man though.
He's not your man.
But this is someone. Even Netanyahu has kind of said that the Jewish the Palestinian state could be feasible. But it's a man who has told all okay to listen that there will never be a Palestinian state. This man, he has said so. That there will never be a Palestinian state that doesn't believe in a two-state solution. So that's that. But we thank God that in 2 years he will go and someone who is more liberal, centrist will come. And so, but they are saying that this guy will wreck the boat after 2 years. Let's dissolve parliament and call for fresh election because he doesn't want. Because this guy is another Netanyahu. That's the truth.
Okay, fine. Now, from what we've seen so far in the parties that played out that saw the exit of Netanyahu, is like, sharing a government. You take 2 years, I take 2 years. Though he brought it to the limelight, but do you think that arrangement will work? Bennett, after 2 years, you step aside for a Lapid, so to speak, to come into the picture. Do you see it happening?
Yes, the way to say that is better done the traditional way. In an African traditional way, that is not comments made at the point of slaughtering a goat. There will be the same comments will be made when it's time for sharing. So all what Naftali Bennett wanted was to remove Netanyahu. And at that point of trying to remove him, let's have a common ground that I'll do 2 years after we should come on board. But let's see to it as time unfolds, if that agreement will still hold. You know, it was Netanyahu that in quote, misbehaved, that allowed all these persons to come in. Otherwise, Netanyahu was doing well, if not for these allegations leveled against him. Because the way you now strike a deal, that I will do 2 years, thereafter you come back and continue, what if he refuses to assent to that agreement? One. Number two, what if he accepts that agreement and the other guy comes on board and rubbishes everything? That's when Netanyahu will not be very happy. So I told you. So we will pray and we hope that the agreement they have signed, they have agreed to do, will be something for the betterment of the nation of Israel. And what Netanyahu has done was to retain power, to create fear. He has suddenly created fears over the years. That's why they kept on voting him in. And people have realized that no matter what, these people around us, they are still going to be around us. There's high time we allowed another person come on board. So these fears over the years was what paved way for his retention of power. And in our faith, he had entered straight into their hearts to determine, just like a virus entering into his system, to manipulate the body system. So he manipulated at the time, and now they have gotten a drug that will kill the virus.
Now, what is the drug? Bennett?
Bennett is a drug now. But right now, Bennett is a drug. We don't know whether it's going to be adverse reactions that will come up as a result of the ingestion of the drug. So now it's my hope that having removed Netanyahu from office, let it be that the nation of Israel will stand tall. Removing sentiments. You have won now. Face the job of governance. Whether Netanyahu has promised, as he said on that day, that he's going to come back or not, you do a thing that will make Netanyahu not to come back. But if he doesn't do the right set of things, why not? Netanyahu can come back.
All right. Now take a look at the position of these extremists. All right, you have the far right and the far left, a little bit of mixture from the Arabics, like a concussion. Do you see him surviving the first 2 years of Bennett's government? Because Netanyahu predicted that, look, this is not good for Israel, because he keeps saying that these people, they have this affiliation or this soft spot for the Palestinian state. And really, take a look at it. People call them concussions, so to speak. You take from here, take from there, coming together just to chase one person out. And if society is doing it, do you think their ideas and ideal will work together to make them stay long in government?
Thank you, Wilson. You see, it is as clear as daylight that these people, they are diametrically opposed to each other, ideologically speaking. That one believes in white, another believes in red, that they don't see eye to eye on any issue. The only thing that united them was this aversion for one certain Benjamin Netanyahu, who they thought was destroying the institutions of government in Israel and needed to go. Now let him go first, later we'll fight among ourselves. They know they are going to fight. Imagine there is an uprising in Gaza today. How would they react? There's an Arab party, there's a Labour party, there's a centrist party. So many being pulled. Imagine a leading party being pulled in different directions. The components are ideologically opposed to each other. So if there is, they're just saying, let's not talk about the turning issues, the nothing issues, like what happened to East Jerusalem, like what happened to land being taken from the Palestinians, a Palestinian land which Jewish buildings are being, settlements are coming. So they said, let's just focus on the economy. For how long will you just focus on the economy? Focus on rebuilding the institutions that were destroyed by Netanyahu. Other issues will come up. What happens if tomorrow something happened at the High Aqsa Mosque, or maybe there are some people, some protesters which you need to disperse? What happens? And there are so many nothing issues. So many things can go wrong. And Benjamin Netanyahu knows this. That's why he's telling me that I'm coming back. He knows that these alliances, unless they are so savvy, unless they are clenched fist determined that we want this thing to work and let's make it work, it ordinarily won't work.
All right.
So we have seen that. And I tell you again something. The truth in Israeli politics today, there's no dominant party again. Even Likud has lost its grip on power. You need partners. And those partners, they are no longer following Netanyahu. That's why he won elections is March last year. He has been unable to form a government because nobody wanted to partner with him. Right. So in those days when Israel was formed in 1948, we have each party like Kadima. Kadima for like 20 years, they were just the party leading. Then Likud came, then Likud also break when this guy also formed what was the party against the areas around that had issues. So, but now the party in power now, there are 8 parties. This coalition made up of 8 parties.
8 parties.
So you will need to reach out to smaller parties to form a government. And Likud has lost credibility, so to speak.
All right.
Nobody wants to partner with them anymore. That is why we have parties that is far right and parties to the far left coming together because they don't want to deal with Likud or deal with Netanyahu anymore.
The same question I'm going to push towards a direction. Do you see it surviving the test of time, this coalition government?
The coalition government might survive if they are sincere to each other.
If they are sincere?
Yes.
Do you see sincerity in this government?
Because the far left, far right, if there's a bridge across, have the common interest of Israel at heart, all these things would not take place. But being humans as we are, now you made such statements or agreements before you came on board. And now that you are now there, those things might want to change in favor or otherwise, as the case may be. So what I see there, in essence, is looking at the way they fought to remove Netanyahu, that coalition will not stand. Because if you taught me how to fight my boss, I'm going to rise up tomorrow to fight you because you taught me. So I'm seeing a situation whereby Bennett may not do what has been agreed. I may not also trust his colleague in that agreement because they would have said a lot of things to each other. Let's remove him. And as we are removing him, each of us will have a different plan that we have not unfolded to each other. So I now begin to realize right now myself that what Netanyahu said, it might come to pass that he's coming back. Because if they don't have that focus as to how to preserve the territorial integrity of Israel, they don't have that in mind, they may end up calling on Netanyahu to come back.
As a fixer?
Yes. Because that far left, far right, as they say, here and there, won't take you there. We are going to the left, I'm going to the right, and we're supposed to move forward, and there's no forward anymore. So that common interest has to come on board first.
All right. It's all about the interest right now.
Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, before comments are decent, what do you think is going to be the next step of Benjamin Netanyahu? Because after the election, he forgot that he lost the election. He still went back to sit on the seat of the Prime Minister. And he was told, Johnny, so please, no longer there, please get up, so to speak. What next with this man?
He has been protected by the next set for a long time. Talking about his legal challenges, his court issues, because of he has some parliamentary immunity that were bestowed upon him by reason of being the Prime Minister. He has lost that now. I see Netanyahu is running from one court to the other in the next 1 year or thereabouts, trying to clear his name, trying to reposition himself for the office he so desire, the office he hopes to die in. So I see him trying to defend himself in court, and that's just that. And if he succeeds in clearing his name, he will make a dive for the office again, and he will get it.
And he will get it.
Yes, he will.
If he can clear those mess that is leveled against him. Honorable, you share his views? My
view is it will make attempts to clear, but he can't clear them completely.
He can't clear them completely?
That will kind of hinder him from recontesting. Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
He can't clear it. The evidence are so clear, leveled against him. They are so clear.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. I really appreciate your views and, of course, your opinions. You've heard them. The man said, I'll be back. Remember that Terminator? Yeah, Terminator, I'll be back. Now, that was what Netanyahu was really happening. I'll be back. This party, this coalition will not stand. He forgot he wasn't the prime minister anymore. He sat, but he was gently asked to please look for elsewhere to sit. And right now, he's not the leader. The good party is now the opposition, major opposition in the Knesset. That is the Israeli parliament. It's called Knesset, okay? Now you know. What do you think would be the next move of Netanyahu? It's like a chess game. Call, response. What do you think he's going to do? Will he be able to clear those allegations leveled against him? Can the coalition stand? Will he really take another dive at that position of the prime ministership, so to speak, of Israel? Only time will tell. Gentlemen, thank you once more for coming on today's show. See you next week. Yet another edition of International Forum. Bye for now.